Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Good to see you.
Michelle and I are here in Boston, Massachusetts. Um, yeah, we're very close to some of you. I think I've mentioned before, I'm for the month of July, I'm going to Paris to study. There's a kind of academic program that I got accepted into for sort of independent study, and there's workshops and material there that I'll be working on for the month. And then I had to come home to Western Mass for a little bit and attend to a few more family things these last few days. And then we realized Michelle hasn't been home to visit her family in Eastern Mass in about 6 years, really since before the pandemic. And then I thought she should tag along for a little while to France. She's going to come to Paris for a week or so out there as well. Get a little vacation in. So we're traveling, and happy we could still make this Sunday sitting.
And I just saw my family after many, many years, so it was very powerful.
Yeah, there's some intense family time the last few days, and good to be with Dhamma family. So there will be a couple weekends where neither of us will be here, but we'll have someone hold the Sunday sitting space. Too. And hope folks keep sitting together for a couple weeks before Michelle gets back and leads the charge again. So yeah, good to see you all. Good to be here with you. So let's take some time to sit together. And actually, can you hear me okay, audio-wise? Does that sound all right? Yeah, okay, great.
Your screen is very different than mine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right, you don't have as many squares.
Yeah, I have like, this has, Jesse's screen has so many squares, it's like Jeopardy or something.
It's one page. This way,
that's
you don't have to tell people to look on the other page.
Okay. All right.
So taking just a little time to get settled into your seated posture. And letting your eyes come to close. Just noticing what physical experiences feel most predominant right now. Noticing what you might sense about their changing qualities. Noticing what you might notice about their pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral character. Noticing what you might notice in terms of just notions or ideas, concepts that come into the mind about these sensations. And recognizing those as thoughts, emotions, visual impressions, imagining. Related to perhaps, but distinct from the physical sensations themselves. And just seeing what is it like if we can just try to stay dedicated to the observation of the physicality primarily. Not needing to push away or reject the mental, emotional responses and experiences. Just for the sake of discernment, of training, of clarifying the perspective. Settling into the commitment of a relationship to the changing experience of pressure, tension, tightness, pulsing, aching, throbbing. Warmth, coolness. Motion. And sometimes when we bring the attention to the body, the mind seems to call for more attention, to assert itself in whatever ways, and that's fine. You don't need to ignore it. You just recognize the flavors, the characteristics, the tones of the heart are of a different nature than those of the body. So we can feel the emotion, be interested in the quality of visual imagining, of imagining in thought or ideas. As a way to get a little space from the content of the thinking, the object of the thoughts, but that the nature of thought, the nature of emotion, the textures, tones, qualities of those are also things that we can explore, receive directly. So we may invite a certain dedication to physicality, experiences in the body as part of the training. We're not trying to develop a preference for either or any experience, not a higher or lower, not a better or worse. But still discerning the different qualities and, of course, the relationship between them. In this way, there's no getting lost. There's never a sense that what's happening is outside of what should be happening, that we're doing it wrong. It's more of a matter of the appropriate quality of attention and direction of attention for what's happening. Can be that we observe closely the sensations of the rising and falling of the abdomen with the breath within that realm of the physical, the material. So when the mind wanders, moves, its interest to other things, doesn't mean we can't observe that, appreciate it, recognize it, try to understand the nature of the movement of the mind, the ebbs and flows of the attention. Not trying to make a prison out of the practice, but genuine friendship with wherever the attention finds itself. Understanding, of course, there is a value to a commitment to one part of the experience, so the training of some concentration, developing a relationship over time with one field of experience. But not at the cost of our sense of capacity with wherever the attention goes. Any object that arises in the six sense fields are valid objects of attention: sound, smell, taste, thought, body. And find the helpfulness of gathering the attention in the body, in the hands, in the breath. But not struggle and get frustrated when the attention is elsewhere. Wherever we find the attention, finding an entrance into insight, exploration, understanding, friendship, care, tenderness, investigation. You can see Michelle's room has this cool view of the Boston Harbor. Mm. So we thought we'd try to take some time for questions this evening, if anyone had them, about your practice, instructions, anything that we might be able to be supportive with. As usual, if you have a question, the easiest way to let us know is at the bottom of the screen. There's a little button that says raise hand. You can click on that and we can call on you, or you can type into the chat that you have a question and we'll call on you, or you can just kind of wave your real hand around and we'll see that as well. David, was that a real hand being waved? Let's see.
Only to say that chat has been disabled.
Oh, but you can't chat me directly even?
No.
Oh, all right. Well, don't do that then. We'll work on that one. Hey, Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Hi. I think I have a question about um where to strike. Where to strike, I don't know. Where to strike. No, delete that. Just around honesty. I'm having hard time striking this boundary around things getting too intense, and at the same time I'm like, well, that's what's happening, so I just want to so I'm aware of the unpleasantness and wildness of the mind that's happening, and before I know it, I'm just getting drawn into it, and I'm not trying to control it, but I don't know, there's a sense that like I actually would like to be really honest and not want to cover things up, even when it's really, really overwhelming. And I know it's not like helpful in the end because it's too overwhelming. It's clear. Yeah, like finding kind of like in the middle way as being super tricky recently. When more dukkha's are present or appearing or surfacing, like more continuously or more um, obviously somehow. Uh, yeah, just to how to balance the honesty and striking the balance of not getting drawn to things.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great, it's just an important and like lifelong question, really, and I think there's some part of like that you can trust your past experience with how you have negotiated in the past. But then on the other hand, there's always the truth that like we are, developing, and we are, encountering new aspects of our practice and kind of new dimensions and, sometimes new depths of intensity, and those can be, pleasant or unpleasant or whatever, and I think that ultimately the lessons are always, or the framework that I feel very confident in is always the same. Right, which is that like you explore the intensity to the degree that you feel like you can do it stably, safely, and with like genuine interest, right? And when you can't, do those things, do it with that sense of stability, the sense of safety, the sense of actual interest. Of course, there's the list could go on, mindfulness and love and kindness and etc. But the aspects. It's not that they all need to always be present in order to explore something, but I get the sense from what you're saying. It's like you see that you're at a place where there is like you're at the edge of, or at times like that place where you see that it's not helpful, right? Where that it's like it's not stable, or it's not safe, or it's not genuine interest that is able to support the kind of exploration. And I think what you're pointing out in terms of like that wanting to be honest is such a very powerful thing in terms of motivation, that on one hand, of course, can feel genuine and helpful and like a basic foundation of our practice, right? In terms of sila, in terms of like wanting to see the truth and wanting to recognize the truth and wanting to be with the truth of things. And so there is that side of it that is like very much aligned. I think what's hard is that there's other times where like, are we sure that it's true, or that it's real, or that can we trust the perspective also, right, of the intensity? And I think that sometimes that can be a complicated and a place where it's worth being more careful than more guided by it, right? Where it's worth being like, the truth of this experience is not enough, or what feels like at the moment to be the truth of this experience is not necessarily enough to feel like it is stable, safe, and like genuine interest, mindfulness in order to explore it, And then I think what is hard is that you get into the realm of having to be what can feel like dishonest, but is also can be skillful, right? Of like changing the channel and pulling out of investigation and pulling out of the process of kind of this, the gravitational pull of what feels like the truth, but also is just going to suck you in, as you're describing. And I think that sense, that we often have to get so humbled by how far away from it we need to get, actually, and for how long we need to kind of maintain a space outside of that, and to what degree that feels sort of like phony or dishonest or whatever. I mean, you often will have to go through some period of time where it feels like there's a painfulness there of like, you're not really enjoying this thing that you're trying to use to distract yourself, and you're going to pretend like you are, but you don't really want to pretend. You want to actually feel like what you're feeling, right? That is like part of the method. I mean, it's part of the training, right? Is to actually be willing to go through that and see how far out of it you actually have to get out of the gravitational field of something that's really strong, and just that is kind of a little bit like you're describing, the relentlessness of it, right? The like, oh, it just keeps going, you know. That would be my first sort of blush at it, which is that it's sort of the same. It's like the same basic thing, but I think that you're pointing to what exactly an important part of what's hard about that is like the wanting to be honest internally, right? Or wanting to be honest externally, of course, with others or whatever, but that actually the skillful thing to do is to find distance and find a way out. And it's like, you know, a big thing that so many of us have learned from Michele is that so much of the training and so much of the beautiful inheritance we have of Dhamma is about like, how do you get closer? How do you get closer? How do you get closer and stay closer and stay closer? And that, like, what we've, you know, I'd say all of us have had to learn and have to keep learning is that opposite strength building, right? It's like, actually, this isn't just about getting closer. It's like learning how to back off, learning how to pull away, and that you're actually building strength in that, right? Kind of like how after so many years of like everyone doing yoga, they're realizing you also need to do like strength building, right? And like people are doing like this other stuff now because they realize like, oh, it's actually just stretching isn't gonna actually bring stuff into balance. So you actually need to do this sort of other strengthening exercises, right? And I feel like there's a very similar thing that we learn to do in the practice of like the stretching part and the moving into uncomfortable places, but also the what can also feel like the discomfort of moving away and getting out of those and building up that kind of strength of mind. And of course, there's lots of ways to talk about how to do that, but that concept is still feels like very real, I think, to us. What do you?
Yeah, I mean, that idea of right effort, which there's so much to be said for right effort, but it to me, everything that Jesse just talked about has to do with right effort. So if one is drowning, Kate, what would you call right effort?
If if one's drowning, right effort would be to get out of that water.
And would that feel honest?
Yeah.
Does it feel like good practice?
I would say yes, but then probably they'll like a part of me want to be swimming, I think. But yeah, no, that is not a good practice to keep swimming. So probably wholesome way to go about it is to get out, and that would be a good practice.
Really good practice. I would say it's like so hard to learn it, so hard to learn it that it's really good practice.
It's maybe the hardest thing to learn. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of hard things to learn, but really, to get to the place where you're like, it's good practice, not just that it's okay or that it's permissible or that it's okay and permissible is hard to do, but to be like, this is actually the way, is really, really hard.
Yeah.
So it's don't hold it against yourself that doesn't feel natural. You know, it comes after like not drowning. You're like, oh, I didn't drown. Like, you know what I mean? Like that eventually there's, you know, a deeper faith in it, but
Yeah, it takes so much courage to choose rest. And so it's like it actually, the little self, the personal self, or you want to say the ego, however we might describe that, the motivation at that point is everything, because if it's clear that drowning is like feeling defeated. Drowning is like getting defeated by an imaginary war. And so when we're in that kind of place, it's really good practice to say what would be more helpful in terms of strengthening the practice. And it's usually at that point realizing that it's taking so much energy, even like in excessive treading of the water, never mind drowning, right? In the quicksand, then going in the quicksand. It's like getting that, it's like choosing to step out is giving you, it's our culture is so warrior, conquering and warrior like, and that is really an unbalanced approach to right effort. It's really unbalanced and it's really unskillful, but it's very hard for us to actually get that all the metaphors that we learn are usually a one-shot deal. Like, how about the dark night of the soul? The dark night of the soul, if you learn it years ago, it would happen once. That's ridiculous. It happens a lot, right? And so it's like, with all with all this stuff, it's just like the metaphor of a butterfly that is in a cocoon a long time, but it's born as a worm that's just eating and eating and eating and eating, and then it's like has to rest in this cocoon because the wings are never going to be strong enough to fly. And again, we tend to want to be the butterfly, and we don't like this repetition of, oh, I'm a worm again, you know, chewing away, and then it's time to go in the cocoon. And plus, on top of it, there's no information sheet we get every day, and it's going to say at 2 o'clock, you're going to have to go in the womb, right? It's like, it's all unknown. It's going to be all unknown. And sometimes you're going to be able to not drown. And that's heroic, right? But it's like, it's heroic to drown and to get out. It's heroic to go, I really don't even want to try this. Like, I don't have the energy for it, right? Like, that's all skillful means. It's all getting, oh, metta might be appropriate, or going to the bottom of our feet with our attention. You know, Kate, I know you know all those options, but it's hard for the little me to accept, as Jesse said, that sense of it's almost like the dance of it. It can feel maybe quite unflexible, but actually with time it gets more flexible, where even if you're drowning, it's okay. You don't identify with it, but that all takes, the flexibility around this takes time. That you're being so much more courageous than I can even give you credit for here. Like, you're being so courageous because you're actually jumping in and you're being with the wildness. Um, and that's usually when people want to run from Vipassana. So Jesse and I, we really need to keep reassuring you that we don't want you to get too so overwhelmed you don't want to do it. Because there's so many other options.
And it's not like you're like, oh, you're not allowed to like feel anything. I mean, of course, it's like when it's intense, it's going to call the attention. So it's not, it's not that it's bad practice to feel like what's happening and, and to try to bring some mindfulness to that. It's an ongoing negotiation. It is, you're in this place of like, you have old tricks that you've learned, you have old tools you've learned, there's ways that and then there's always going to be new things you need to learn, right? And then there's new ways of doing it to, sometimes kind of outmaneuver it. But just that reminder, of like, there's a part of it that is about your own personal practice and your own determination and, what it takes to actually like pull the attention from one thing to another, from one object to another, and to keep doing that and the effort it takes and all of that. And then of course there is like the part of this that sometimes, as we've talked about before, it's like it can't ultimately just be ourselves. I mean, there is like friends, family, community, like what support do you have outside of yourself, to help give you space in terms of whether it's distraction or the safety of kind of going through some of these experiences, but in a loving way, and of course there's like that whole range of what that can look like. But to also, there's that dance of like, and then on the other hand, it always is our own hearts, minds, and bodies that we're kind of managing. There is an on our ownness to it. And then there is that part where it's like just really important to also find where you can outside of yourself in terms of support and love and space and distraction. And then I guess the other thing is, yeah, like the nothing you don't know, again, but just that framework of like, and our lives and the lifestyle and the choices we're making, and what are the things that lead to more imbalance, what are the things that lead to more stability. We don't always know that, but there's some process around like, oh, is this a time, what does this time call for, in terms of what would create a sense of kind of balance at this point, not necessarily just generally, but like in this moment, in this context. So I feel like those are those kind of various dimensions,
I have two more things to say, which is the desire for deliverance comes from this place. The deep desire for freedom comes from this place. And so it's something that we will rejoice in for you. It's like wonderful. And it's just, when you look at like often what's going on, there's so much vulnerability with the intensity. And I would just like ask you to explore that. When there's the overwhelm, if you can just go kind of to the heart center and feel the vulnerability and notice if there's aversion to it, and that's totally bona fide. Like it's okay to hit these places and know that so much of my practice in the place you're describing was noticing the vulnerability and noticing the aversion to it and noticing the vulnerability. And and eventually having to do loving kindness or compassion. Because mostly it's that's the truth, is that is how it really is. And I think that honesty is really important.
Yeah, I think I didn't realize how much of a compassion or like that I need. and it's just
Oh,
fun.
that's so, we all do, we all need it, or we can't do this, like that's how much we need, yeah. It- I'm so glad you said that, yeah.
It's
It's
unimaginable. I really don't know how much I need it. It's wild.
It's really beautiful.
It's really beautiful. You're doing great. You're doing great, Kate. We're gonna say up the doses of Karuna here. Yep. Yeah. Mm.
That I just I you know I mean I that's that place where it's personal and where it's not is just so important. I mean, kind of like what Michelle's getting into of like just how hard existence is on this like very fundamental level, and the dukkha of it and the sharedness of that, actually, for whether people are vulnerable or in touch with the vulnerability or not, is just that it can be that excruciating, and that's actually very powerful and important to recognize, and something to be very careful with, of course, but that it inspires that the unfathomability of the call for compassion feels like a very good sign. Yeah.
Yeah,
Take care.
we can't do this without compassion, Kate. Lots and lots of it. Yeah. And then more.
Thanks, Kate. Hi, Karen. Let's see. Can you unmute there? Let's see.
There we go.
There we go. Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I feel a little embarrassed about asking this, but I'm still in the throes of coming off the surgery. And yeah, it's gonna make me cry. And so I've been on a all liquid diet well, I was in the hospital for 4 days, and then when I came home, I've been on an all liquid diet since then. And on Tuesday, I'm supposed to go to a soft diet if I feel like I'm swallowing well enough, because I didn't know this, but my daughter knows somebody who went through this and ended up going back into surgery, which of course scared the hell out of me. And so the soft diet is very, they lay it all out for you and stuff, but I'm swallowing okay, but I'm belching a lot. And sometimes when I take a little bit too much of the liquid, it tightens up. And I find myself today, I've been counting down the days till I get to soft diet. It's like, oh, please, but I'm finding myself really scared and not knowing if I'm doing okay enough to go to the soft diet, and then I start spinning. And so Kate's question was really good because I feel like I'm so afraid. And of course, I haven't remembered compassion for myself. Fear kind of, and
Minor detail.
You're muted there. Sorry.
Oh, it's that good old minor detail, compassion.
Yeah. Yeah, and to understand that this whole surgery has been such a big deal, and the staying in the hospital for 4 nights and 5 days was really pretty god awful, and I don't want to go back there. And you know, trying to get quiet enough so I can ask my guidance. I have very good tools of asking my guidance, but when I have this much what looks like at stake, you know, it's really hard for me to quiet enough to ask well. And so I don't want to make the mistake of going to the soft diet because I'm dying to go to the soft diet. But I also don't want to hold myself back if I'm really doing okay. You know, because of course it's big throat esophagus surgery. So of course I'm not going to feel 100%. That's why you have to have the damn soft diet, you know.
I mean, I'll say that you can talk about the liquid diet and the soft diet like they're two different worlds. But in my recent experience, there is a huge spectrum between those things that is a realm of exploration. You know, I mean, we obviously will get to the emotional side of things and, like, you know, the dread and the fear, but like they're on the practical level, just to kind of give you that reminder, I guess, of like, you can, there's like watered down versions of things, and there's, you know, there's degrees of thickness that you can really, you know, be very subtle about and sophisticated with. So it's, you know, it's, to me, it just sounds like on the, just again, on the kind of practical level, that there is that side of like wanting to be, it's good to be careful. You don't want to rush into something that might cause you more harm, that's going to bring you back to the hospital. Just to reflect back to you, there's something very reasonable, very caring, very thoughtful in that. That's not just fear, thinking that, right? It's like, oh yeah, that you want to be careful, and yet you don't want, just exactly as you're describing, you don't want the terror, the fear, the anxiety to be what's making the decision either, right? And so you have the complexity to it. And so just to say on the practical level, you can do it slowly, right? It isn't like suddenly you're just eating soft foods and not liquids, right? I mean, there's a whole, you know, realm of how much milk or how much water or how much sort of, you know, what that transition looks like, and foods that are in between and stuff like that. So just don't feel like you have to turn it in necessarily either into like a black and white, like one day suddenly you're making a huge change in terms of your diet, that you can do it slowly and see how it seems to be working for you, you know? And maybe not hold this one day as the kind of the big test of like, are you okay, or are you not okay, are you getting better, are you getting worse? Those are understandable, you know, things to go through, but just to be careful to not be setting up like a false measure of that, right? That's not necessarily helpful.
On the liquid diet, the thought of soft scrambled eggs and mashed potatoes is like nirvana. And it's not what I would call if I weren't in this situation, but I hear what you're saying, is to do it gently and not like 3 eggs and 4 potatoes, you know.
Yeah, or not feel like you have to do that. I guess that's the more important thing. It's like there's the being slow about it, but also just that sense of like, you don't need to either make this decision, make this shift or not, right? That there is like actually like a whole realm of sort of transitional like exploration that you can do, you know?
Is there a point where you're going to have a checkup?
Well, somehow this was a surgery that I canceled a couple times because I was too congested. And in that, somehow I ended up seeing the doctor for the post-surgery checkup on Monday, which was 3 days after, well, I left the hospital on Saturday and and he said, this isn't quite right. I think we messed up with when we gave you the post-operation checkup. It's supposed to be 2 weeks, which would be tomorrow, actually. And it's just hard for me to judge. I could call in and I could say, well, I'm swallowing fine, but sometimes it's a little tight, but they don't really know as much as this doctor. I just, I could make my mashed potatoes somewhat runny. I mean, I'm serious, actually, as a halfway measure. I wouldn't have to go to, full regular mashed potatoes. I mean, I'm not sure this is what you asked for, but
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. My family in Ecuador, they eat their mashed potatoes like soup anyway. I'm not that into it, but you can.
yeah.
It is like a legitimate way of eating mashed potatoes. So yeah, I mean, I would say why not call the doctor anyway? Hopefully your insurance should cover it, even because it was their mess up or whatever, it could just be reassuring to check in with, and you never know. You may get someone who's very knowledgeable about it, even if it isn't your main doctor or this particular
Well, he
doctor.
has a lot of good residents, so that's probably who I would get. And if it was really dicey, they'd ask him.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea you need reassurance. I mean, we could both tell you,
you're fine.
but either way, it's like, my dad had to be on a liquid diet for years. And, that's just how.
God.
So my sister's on a yogurt diet. So, people end up on hard places, but it sounds like you're doing really good. And
Mhm.
I would err a little bit like you are on the side of caution, because you don't want to go back, but you need to talk to somebody. And as Jesse says, if you do it really like almost liquidy, right? Like you want to do it so that you're starting to get the confidence that it's going well,
Yeah. It's just, I have a lot of good signs, but I have some bad ones. I woke up this morning and first thing I did was regurg. I sat up and regurged and I thought, jeez, I don't know what that means really.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you should speak with a
need to
doctor,
talk to somebody.
because it's
Yeah.
acidic or whatever. And I think just to say kind of like what Michelle, there is also like the spiritual side of this, which is amazing, of like how we are very attached and very identified to certain experiences in life that we think are the things that bring nirvana, right? I mean, that like, it's a joke, but it's not. Like, you really see that is like we have these fixations, we have this belief that this is going to be satisfying, and that if we can't have it, that we're never going to find satisfaction, or that somehow our lives are going to be destined to be meaningless. I mean, you can see the way that thought process, that emotional compounding can happen, right?
That's why I don't want to call the doctor.
Right. What am I becoming? You don't.
Oh, you ought to stay on it for another week. Nirvana denied.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so then what happens if the doc says that, right?
It's the way it goes.
Can you be okay? Can you be okay with that? Like, so there's like your body, which is like, no matter what the doctor says tomorrow, no matter when you get to hard food, your body is definitely, all of our bodies are going in one direction, right? And it's not towards like more joy and more satisfaction, right? And so the inevitability of that is something that we are all facing. And then there is some sense of like, what is your spiritual responsibility around that fact? What if you were on a liquid diet forever? Because that does happen to people. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't know anything about your situation, but it's one of those things where there's this, how many tick-borne diseases are now, right? There's like a gazillion. And I just found out about this one where like you get allergic to meat afterwards.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah, huh? And so it's like, you think about all these Americans, like, what are they gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, you can just see they're gonna like freak, you know, and they're like, they can't eat
They all
meat.
have become vegans
And it's like,
by
guess
kick
what?
order.
They'll be all right. Yeah, I mean, they'll be all right.
It's another,
Yeah.
it's another thing to be afraid of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't go on the grass. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
what I've been seeing in myself and others is that you think you can't do something when you're sick or like having these things happen, but actually you get through it. Like somehow you get the strength to get through another day of it, and you do get stronger in that process.
In some ways, it's a question of like renunciation, you know, and it's not a voluntary invitation. You know, this is something that has befallen you. But there is that sense of like, is there something in you that is getting stronger? Even if you get to go to soft food tomorrow and it's like, oh, that part is over. That sense of like, do you value some part of having to have had to renounce something for a little while, and that there's a strain in that, and there's a discipline and there's a struggle in it that you already have done it for 2 weeks. I mean, that's like actually, you know, it's not like you know, this is the kind of thing where the Buddha wouldn't have like recommended this type of renunciation. You know, it's like the renunciations he tended to like had, it was very like kind of like particular what he recommended, and he was very hesitant about overdoing that type of like, oh, I'm just going to vow to stop doing X or Y. But there was an understanding that there can be some value in that, and that you saw now that you're capable of this, right, for a couple of weeks, and that there could be something very reassuring for you in that, about your mind, about your heart, right, about your spiritual practice of like, you did this, you have gone through a very difficult, physically difficult, emotionally scary, a time in the hospital, like you've gone through a very difficult thing, and that is amazing, and that you are like can feel like there's a spiritual accomplishment in having gone through what you've already gone through, that hopefully can give you a sense of capacity for whatever else, you know, we may go through.
well, it also, I've always been really attached to food. And so to see that, you know, which I have to have compassion about that for myself, because that can lead down the rabbit hole of hating myself. But, you know, it's just, in my childhood, it was one of the few comforts.
Yeah.
And
Well, it sounds like you're going down a very good path, and you did all this out of great care for yourself. And I think being careful is important. That'll be seeing that the renunciation is a form of kindness or care for yourself. It's really important, really important. I know we were joking about it, but that compassion, this is all compassion, Karen.
yeah. Yeah, and you know, it's like the fear thing, it blinds me to compassion, really.
Right.
So
And that I think, to recognize the validity of what you just said, it's like most of us find it's like that sense of comfort in food, and there's something there's a nourishment, right, that's not just physiological, right, that we can get from that feeling of feeding ourselves and carrying ourselves and eating and being in the goodness of that, and that isn't like it doesn't have to be considered a pathological thing, right, that's like very understandable and it's a very powerful way that we can be comforted. And so that you have had to let go of that for a couple of weeks, that is very hard, and all dimensions of it, from texture, from flavor, from, you know, and then of course that like identity around it. So it's also to like give yourself some credit of like, yeah, food is so emotionally potent, you know, and that to really recognize how hard it is actually, so that what you've done, it's like, again, it's like another part of your, just that acknowledgement of that spiritual capacity to have done it, you know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Enjoy your mashed potatoes. They come, however soupy or not. Mm.
The Buddha did say, "I spit on you, old age." It's one of my favorite quotations. It keeps getting up there on the top hits of my favorite quotation. I love that.
It's a good one. He didn't hold back.
That's very honest. It's really good to be with you. Dhamma family is really important. Really important.
Yeah. So thanks everyone. Yeah, really good to see you all again this week. And yeah, just again, it'll be 2 weeks before Michelle is back. And then I'll be back in 4 weeks. So look forward to reconnecting.
But we'll have some.
Yeah, we'll have some. Yeah, we'll still hold the Sunday sittings for the next 2 weekends. So please, you'll see the emails still, and we'll get them. But we'll just have someone hold the space quietly for the 45-minute sitting. So please continue to come and support each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and be supported.
Take refuge in our Sangha. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone.
Where are you parked? Parked over there.